Let's take back our city, one vaccination at a time. Safe and effective COVID-19 vaccines are here. Get yours when it's your turn. Learn more at nyc.gov/COVID vaccine. No matter how much we want it gone, COVID-19 is still here. That's why we all need to keep wearing our face coverings, keep physical distancing, and keep washing our hands. And as always, stay at home if you're feeling sick. The COVID-19 vaccine is available to certain groups in NYC, but now is not the time to stop protecting ourselves. Learn more at nyc.gov/health/coronavirus.
If you want to be a part of the hip-hop culture, you got to speak up.
We live in a world where women of color's voices are marginalized.
What we see now as the hip-hop culture,
That's not hip-hop culture.
it's the hip-hop industry, right? It's the rap game.
It's not all about, you know what I'm saying, popping the titty out and dropping it like it's hot. You know what I'm saying? It's much bigger than that, you know what I'm saying? It's much deeper than that.
The men in the industry and the people who run it can't have women of color who are powerful, who are LGBT, who are smart, who are political.
We're in a state of emergency. It is your responsibility as a woman to fight for your rights.
Hip-hop is here to stay. Throw your hands in the air if you're rocking with me. Franchise a city from around the way. And free franchise.
Hi, my name is Latere.
My name is Kathleen Adams.
And how do we meet? It was divine intervention. I truly believe that.
Well, I've been to a lot of hip hop shows in the past. They were all male dominated. I was basically frustrated with the lack of women having a stage.
Yeah, it's difficult for me because I am a woman in the hip hop industry, and no matter what, you're still put in a position where you feel uncomfortable. And growing up, being a young girl that saw Queen Latifah, my idea of hip hop was like power to the people, UNITY, don't call me a bitch. We're talking about unemployment. We're talking about the conditions of oppression. Our brothers and sisters are the ones that created hip hop because of their conditions.
People still ask what's the role of women in hip hop. And a lot of times people say to sing or to be the sidekick or to be dancing in somebody's video, and they don't realize that all across the world there are tons of female MCs, graffiti artists, breakdancers, DJs, and mothers of some of the greatest hip hop minds on the planet, men and women.
I feel like it's important that we take hip hop back to the root where it comes from, as a voice for people, oppressed people, which are women too.
And I was like, yo, it's crazy. I've been thinking about this. How about we do like a Mama's Hip Hop Kitchen, because Latina and Black women and just women of color, we always meet in the kitchen, and in the kitchen is where we talk about our issues.
So we created Momma's Hip Hop Kitchen, the soup kitchen for the hip hop soul.
Yes,
which
for the
is
hip hop soul.
What's up? My name is Patty Dukes. I'm here representing for Momma's Hip Hop Kitchen. I can't wait. It's gonna be dope. Patty Dukes, La Bruja, Queen Goddess, Bless, Rock, Sola, and it's free. Are you stupid? It's a recession price.
I never been a shy type, been a shy, you the singer, been a mind right. If you're thinking I'ma fail, get your mind right. I'm a Shot City champ in the limelight. I ain't never been a shy type, been a shy, you the singer, been a mind right. If you're thinking I'ma fail, get your mind right. I'm a Shot City champ in the
limelight. With young women, 10 years old to 83-year-old women that feel that they're a part of hip hop and have used it.
Female MCs, B-girls, DJs,
anybody that feels that they're a part of this hip hop culture and need a platform.
And to reclaim hip hop as well. And so that's what we really created.
Hello.
Hey, Kat.
Hey, La. How are you? It's so
love you, girl.
Being a virtual environment.
I know, it's wild.
We want to welcome you all to Momma's Hip Hop Kitchen in her shoes. So obviously, navigating, surviving, challenging shifts is at the core of every single artist that has graced the Momma's Hip Hop Kitchen stage. Choosing to courageously face challenges is in our DNA, and we pride ourselves in that truth. The Hip Hop Kitchen was created to hold space for our community stories and its storytellers. For over a decade, we've curated sacred, powerful, and super healing live all-women's hip hop showcases. In 2007, we set out to create a safe space that would allow for our individual and collective experiences to be heard and recognized. And even through the pandemic, we will continue to provide a sacred healing space. So we're so excited for you guys to join us as we abundantly flow through the new currents and move into a virtual interview series called In Her Shoes. This monthly series is dedicated to sisters who walked with us and nurtured our sisterhood for many, many, many years. And we will highlight their journey in hip hop and learn about the steps that they have taken to walk with confidence and grit. So we're so excited that you guys have joined us on Zoom, Facebook Live, and YouTube, or via the recording, with our diverse lineup of interviewees who are part of our women in hip hop community. So this evening, or whenever you're watching, come walk a mile with us in her shoes.
Love it.
Yeah, I'm like super exciting to be able to just talk about this new event that we have been able to curate. And then for those of you who do not know about Momma's Hip Hop Kitchen, I wanted to do a quick little intro. So Momma's Hip Hop Kitchen came to fruition through myself and La Terre to bring women of color activists together for an interactive community event. We were irritated with hip hop because it has dramatically changed in its 30-year evolution. Once a voice of the oppressed, commercialism and corporate America now make a mockery of the struggle of communities of color. These abusers use hip hop as a tool for violence, segregation against communities of color, and commit rampant violations against the feminine psyche and spirit. At Momma's Kitchen, we believe women of color are in a state of emergency. Where the face of women in hip hop was a powerful MC promoting self-respect and esteem, the public is now bombarded with provocative, lustful images, and it is our responsibility to take this issue by force and reestablish what it means to be a woman in the culture of hip hop. So welcome to Momma's Hip Hop Kitchen.
Welcome.
We have a really unique lineup this evening. We will soon be chatting with our featured guest who will be coming on soon. But let's Henry, take it away. Let's chat a little bit about what's new, what's going on.
Well, I did a live a few weeks ago about how much I miss just the energy that we experience, right? Building up to Mama's Hip Hop Kitchen, like when we're creating it, when we're figuring out what's going to be the theme, when we're figuring out just what's going to be the energy of the show, like how are we going to rock this? And, with COVID, it just kind of, it was a shocker, it was a shocker to feel like this was not gonna, like, how are we gonna be able to do this? Yeah, we knew Zoom and stuff like that, but how do you really get the juiciness of the experience? And so I'm just thankful, I'm thankful that a lot of us, that folks are present, that folks still wanna rock with us, even if it's virtually. And so there's joy in my heart that we're here, that we're able to do this with whatever the situations are. Everybody has things going on right now. And so, yeah. Is that Liquid or is that Liquid?
That is Liquid. So our featured guest is here, Liquid. We're so excited. Liquid in the house.
Love you, Liquid. Woo! Hey.
I want to do an intro on Liquid. So Liquid is our featured guest tonight on the topic of Turntables Beyond. So a quick little intro. So Liquid is a graduate of the Peter J. Tobin School of Business at St. John's University. After receiving her MBA, Liquid worked 10 years independently as a consultant for entertainment companies, managing, booking, and coordinating events with national acts such as Bobito Garcia, The Game, Cedric the Entertainer, Talib Kweli, Too Short, and more. Liquid moonlights as a local selector in New York City's budding Harlem art scene as a DJ, as well as contributes to youth empowerment through edutainment as a teaching artist. She has contributed to panels, festivals, and presented workshops with organizations such as Comic-Con, Brooklyn Hip Hop Festival, BAM, Columbia University, and many more to list. She is currently the senior music curator for the audio fitness app called Aptiv, and has assisted with music partnerships with artists such as Dua Lipa, Cardi B, Georgia Koo, and more. She also spearheaded the launch for Aptiv's BIPOC fitness and wellness inclusion initiative called Aptiv Amplified. So welcome, Liquid. Woo! I think Liquid's about to come back on in a second, but we are so excited to have Liquid. Not only is she a DJ, but she is also an MC, and we've been rocking with her for years. So welcome, Liquid.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here. I'm realizing I'm getting some feedback now.
I think it's okay. Take your time.
We're going to continue chatting. So yeah, so let's talk about all the work that we've been doing over the past year at home. We've been in our homes, in our apartments. We're still been doing meaningful community work. So let's definitely chat about that.
So I mean, there has been a lot of work happening behind the scenes, right? Like trying to figure out how to we have to bring it back to COVID. Like, I just don't want to pretend like this is not a real thing. The ins and outs, the ups and downs, the folk that we have lost that have been a part of Mama's Hip Hop Kitchen that have transitioned, like Kim Andino, which was a super big fan of ours and always made sure she brought people from different parts of the world to participate in Mama's Hip Hop Kitchen. So there's a few things. Before anything, I just want to say, let's take just a second, Kat, and just acknowledge this dual pandemic that we're living in, which is racism and COVID, right? It's not, we're living in this. That 2020 summer was a 2020 summer. There was a lot going on, and there is a lot going on. And so I feel like the work that we've been doing from home has been really beneficial because we actually have been able to kind of rest in between time, right? And find a little bit of rest, which the self-care piece is super critical. And that's what we've been pushing with Mama's Hip Hop Kitchen is like, yeah, do a lot of work, be great, but at the same time, figure out how to care for yourself. And this COVID thing really just stopped us and had us like reevaluate, what does Mama's Hip Hop Kitchen look like from here on out? What are the things that we like that we don't like? And just being in this, having the opportunity to do this virtual series that was it. Now we can always do this, right? And go deeper into these spaces with beautiful people like Likwuid and find out all the juicy details about things that you don't get to hear about Likwuid, because Likwuid is on the stage since 8 o'clock in the morning till 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock p.m., right? DJing, doing the tech stuff. So, and then doing the show, right? So Likwuid.
Woo! Hey, Likwuid. Turn your audio on so we can hear you.
Hey, y'all.
Hey.
Oh my gosh, I am so sorry. Thank you for that wonderful intro, and I got to catch a bit of that while my tech work here was clearly crashing, but it's finally together. Yeah. So super excited to be here. Love the intention. Love you all always giving space to artists and giving us space to be able to speak up and say things. And just really feel like a part of a tribe and part of a community. And you all have been a part of my career, like since I got to New York, basically, like from early on. So I feel very lucky to know you both, La and Kathleen. Thank you dearly. Yeah.
It's a blessing to have you. You're flexible, you're loving, you have so much grace. So
yeah,
you know, that southern energy is something else.
Speaking of southern energy, can you tell us or tell the audience a little bit about you? Like, we gave the professional bio, but like we want to know like the real work. Like, who are you? What are you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So my name is Likwuid. I was born and raised in Columbia, South Carolina. I was a college athlete at the College of Charleston. And after, experimenting with so many different things, music was always a part of my life. I grew up in the church, true Southern upbringing. I spent a great deal of time with my aunt, who's a minister. She had a church out in Tulsa when I was younger, and I used to go out there every summer. My other aunt, big part of a church in Georgetown, South Carolina. My family is from the Sea Island coast. So we're Gullah folk. So we spent a lot of summers at Myrtle Beach, Georgetown, Charleston, all of the things, all the places. But music was always a big part of that. I was on drumline. I was a part of the local hip hop scene. But, I always say I grew up in South Carolina, but I became a woman in New York. Like when I went to grad school, it was my, first time being out on my own and away from home. And I went to St. John's, got my MBA, and did a lot of work within the industry, but through all of that, hip hop was always a part of me. So I did the battles, street battles. I toured, all of the things. So it's funny now when I say I'm a DJ back home, it doesn't really, it's like, where did that come from? But I used to have turntables in my room. I feel like all DJs start as bedroom DJs. You don't just start in the clubs or wherever. So, I used to play sets in my room and like just try my best to match vinyl together. My scratching was not good at all. And you just play until, it makes sense. But, I just always loved, I guess because I grew up on 90s hip hop, like I always loved 70s music as well, because that's where all the samples came from, right? Like today, like all of the samples are songs from like the 2000s. We're like, oh, I know that song. I know where that sample came from. So it's funny because when we were kids, it was like the opposite. They were sampling all of our parents' records. So yeah, I mean, that was my journey. I was an MC, I got into DJing, and I always felt like community was a big part. So I did a lot. I was a teaching artist for 10 years before like going back corporate and working. Because now DJs can be music curators. It's like a whole new job field. Like, this something I like to tell young people about, like, hey, this can actually turn into a career now, because before the Spotify's and the Apple Musics, and even YouTube has wonderful curation. Before all of that, you know, we used to LimeWire it, or I don't know how you guys, you're right. Like we used to just pirating out here. Right. Napster. Oh my gosh. Napster was
Napster life.
And you
Napster
had
was too ahead of their time,
computer,
right?
and you burn the CD.
Yeah.
I hope you didn't get in trouble.
And hope you didn't get in trouble, right? But you know, so anyway, yeah, it was exciting to like kind of see something that I just enjoy doing by myself kind of grow into an actual job, which is it's just interesting how tech does that. Technology is taking us to all these crazy spaces now, where you can truly like do something you love in this virtual space, and people get it, you know, so.
And people get it because music is universal.
Absolutely.
Right?
It's the language
like
of all people.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Yo, so real quick, I have two questions back to back. Inspirations in life, right? And number two is, what song do you play when you want to get hyped up, when you want to get lit, when you want to kick it? Like what? So inspirations
vibes.
And yes, and what song do you play when you want to get hyped?
Okay, bet. Inspirations. So I have so many inspirations. I guess I'll start with my musical inspirations. I love Lauryn, obviously, huge Lauryn Hill fan. I was really into Outkast a lot. And I think Outkast resonated so well because for us, you know, growing up, everything was New York, everything was East Coast. So when we had these cats coming out of Atlanta, and Atlanta started making like a musical movement, and you had the Dungeon Family, you had Goody Mob, you had Slim Cutter Calhoun, you had all of these cats coming out the A. I was like just in love with everything that the Atlanta sound was doing. Then you had Organized Noise producing everything that Organized Noise is to Atlanta what I guess G-Funk is to LA. You know what I mean? It was just like a signature sound. So Outkast was probably like my biggest influence. And, you know, outside of that, Little Brother, of course, North Carolina, got to show them love too. Definitely Ninth Wonder. Oh yeah, like it was a couple folks that I was really into. The old Kanye West, I think today you have to distinguish between the two. So College Dropout up to maybe Late Registration Kanye.
Chi-Town, baby.
Shout out to Chi-Town. Yeah, I think those were my some of my bigger influences as far as hip hop is concerned. And then just like as far as music business is concerned, I love I'm like a low-key fan of Smokey Robinson just because he wrote so many hits for Motown. If you know about anything how the Funk Brothers and Smokey Robinson worked, I was like, this is smart music business, and how they kept it all in house. It's like a hit factory. And I was a big Stevie Wonder fan too. I think Intervision stayed in my car for like a full year when I was like 18 and 19. That's all I played. So yeah, lots of musical inspirations. And then like as far as art, like I've been really into Octavia Butler because I've been you know, researching a lot for like just Afrofuturism, and before it was all Sun Ra, and I think Sun Ra is very like a great intro to Afrofuturism, but there's so, especially now, Nnedi Okorafor, who's been working on the Shuri series, is an amazing writer too. So, you know, yeah, I've been like, I get inspiration there too, you know.
Can you explain what Afrofuturism is to our audience?
Sure. So that's a very good question. Afrofuturism is speculative fiction, and it is one that it can go one of two ways. It's one that imagines futures for Black people or through a Black lens, either reimagined or without the interruption of, and I'll explain those two things. So a reimagined future is one that is, actually I'll use Parable of the Sower for an example. So it's interesting because actually in that book, there's a president called President Donner, and his catchphrase is, guess what? Make America Great Again. Isn't that crazy?
That's so
right.
crazy.
That's insane. But yeah, so
Wow.
It's interesting because the main character eventually, and I love it because especially usually in Octavia Butler's novels, the main characters are young Black girls, you know. So Lauren, she's eventually growing up to have this new society, and it's like dystopian, like America is like pretty much burnt to the ground. It's like crazy wild west in like 2025, you know. So she's like making this new civilization, but this is when she's younger. So in the next book, that's when, you know, she becomes a leader. And their book is Earthseed. So the other thing, the uninterrupted version, so you're looking at a present or a future for folks of color without the white patriarch interruption. So you're talking about no mass genocide, you're talking about no segregation, you're talking about no middle passage. You know, it's like what we could have been. And the best example for that is Wakanda, right? Like Wakanda had no interruption. And that's why Black Panther was such an important film. It was such an important comic. And you know, R.I.P. Chadwick Boseman, like, and what he represented in that film, you know, it was so powerful. But that's probably one of the more modern, easier ways to think about an uninterrupted version of not only Black history, but Black future, right? So yeah, so Afrofuturism does both of those things. And it's one where we get to speculate, we get to imagine, we get to have fun. And it's great it's interesting because for so long, we deal with earthly struggles so often, right? We have all of these different things that are challenging us as folks of color. So it's hard to like think outside of the box. Why am I trying to think about Mars when I'm trying to pay rent? I need to pay rent on Earth.
Hello.
So, you know, I'm trying to live. So it's one of those things where I think, you know, now as we go through this healing process, because we are in a space of healing and we are in an area of awakening and people wanting to understand. And I think that now art is kind of becoming a conduit for that healing and for that reimagination. Because if you think about it in its own way, 2020, COVID, everything that happened, and there was, you know, so much change that occurred, whether it's, you know, one that was painful, good or bad, so much change occurred, but that everyone's kind of having to start up. So this is almost like the post-dystopian portion of our lives anyway, you know? So it's like, I think that's why we are getting so much art right now. I think that's why we are creating so much. And I think that's why, yeah, people are experimenting in NFT, like in the crypto space. Like people are really trying to think further outside of the box. And that includes folks of color, you know, because we are the curators of culture. Like we make everything cool, like, and then move on to make other things cool. You know what I mean? So period.
With a T at the end.
Real quick, period. Real quick. I have to bring it back real fast because I do want to know, you know, it's amazing to talk to you all the time because you always have all these you're in so many different spaces and you're in all of these dope spaces. You're in dope spaces. And so I'm just excited because you're here and people get to see this other piece of you, right? So, but there's this piece, you know, for me, culture is everything. Like culture is pride, pride is success, right? And when I think of the Carolinas and I think of where you're from and the fact that you talk about your the Gullah culture, can you tell us please more about the Gullah culture? Because when I think of the Gullah culture, just how far you guys have come, that's a part of like of Afrofuturistic living. So if you can please talk about
absolutely, that's such a good question. And what's interesting is I started my learning journey, and I'm really so happy you asked because I never get to talk about it because even when I say, oh, my mom, you know, she's from the Sea Island Coast, she's Gullah, I have to like break it down the best way because people are like, what's Gullah? What's that mean? I'm like, well, it's kind of like, you know how Creole people are in New Orleans, like Gullah people are like North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and upper parts of Florida, you know, for a sub African-American culture. And it's one of those things where I know for me, I wanted to personally learn more because it's something we don't talk about, because I know how scary erasure is, like, you know, and how dangerous it is. And if it's not passed down, if we don't understand. So for me, it was just like a personal healing journey. And I started researching around like 2018, late 2017, 2018, 2019, and just interviewing family members, interviewing my aunties and talking to them and having them tell their stories. And I didn't know a lot of the historical portions of being able to hold on to certain African customs. You know what I mean? Because you are separate from, you're in this space that's so far away from where a plantation is, for instance, you know. And if you think about South Carolina, I have to throw this out just for numbers portion so we can understand the amount of Africans that were in South Carolina. So Denmark Vesey was key. Denmark Vesey was key because his plan, had it succeeded, would have probably changed the face of South Carolina and the South for that matter, because South Carolina and Charleston in particular, one of the few cities where the slaves outnumbered the white population. So you're thinking about not only slaves, but also free. That's the other thing about Denmark Vesey. He was a free man, right? So between free Blacks and slaves, they outnumbered the amount of white people in the city. And Charleston was not only a big city, but also was one of the port cities. That's where a lot of slaves were bought to be sold. And then they would go on from Charleston to Richmond, to Memphis, like further inland, if that makes sense. So a lot of people on the Sea Island coast, you got to think about the coast of South Carolina, the beach area is what you think of, right? Because that's super cool. Who doesn't want to be near a beach? But you also have marshes and swamps. And that's where a lot of the irrigation occurred for growing rice, you know, for growing the crops. And if you ever seen the Carolina Gold rice, indigo, cotton, like those were things that South Carolina was known for. But the Africans, it's the staple.
Yeah,
it's definitely this. And not only that, the science behind it. That's why a lot of for my mother's grandfather. So my grandmother's dad was a farmer. So they had a lot of land, you know, after, whether it was from sharecropping or whoever owned it before had given it to him. Not sure how it happened, but they had a lot of land. So my mom spent a lot of time on a farm. And I think for North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, how agriculture works for Black farmers. And I've been seeing the news pieces coming out about how some of the stimulus is going to impact Black farmers. It's really and truly, it's a historical thing, you know, it's truly a science behind it, that it was one where the way it worked in South Carolina, they stayed on the marshes, swamps by themselves. They did all the irrigation, everything by themselves, the Africans. And you're talking about the plantation being miles away. So they weren't governed or watched, just because you're talking about gnats, you're talking about snakes, you're talking about mosquitoes. It was like, you know, you're growing food down there, but it's a crazy, it's a crazy climate. So because of that, and because they were so far away, a lot of the Gullah people got to not only maintain certain parts of language, also certain parts of culture. Also, the biggest thing, especially in Charleston, is the basket weaving, how it's like dual purpose, you know, but it's a staple.
That's amazing.
Oh, which I was going to go on a tangent, but I won't. But it's very important that we preserve that culture, because I think, you know, post-COVID and post how the market looked, because I did get to go to the market last year and it looked very different. Downtown Charleston looked very different than when I had been there before. I'll say it like this. I didn't see them, and I didn't go to an HBCU, you know, but I didn't see a lot of people that looked like me selling the baskets. And that was worrisome, you know, because it's historically, it's very different. So anyway, I don't want to go on a tangent, but I will say part of my culture on my mom's side, in which I still have to explore my dad's side, is a very proud one. And it's very much rooted in family, very much rooted in tradition, very much rooted in spirituality. You know, there's that part as well. And I appreciate every summer that I got to stay with my grandmother. I appreciate how we cook seafood. We're Sea Island people. We love seafood. I love, you know, thinking about all of those summers when we had family reunions. And it's one of those things you appreciate once you grow up. But, you know, I also appreciate learning about the importance of keeping your own. That's the other thing. A lot of the Gullah lands,
yes,
the same way they try to gentrify the big cities, they try to gentrify the small ones, you know, and get into those spaces. Because, for instance, Hilton Head is known for golfing. That's where, you know, all the people go take their trips and everything. Yes. If you see what I'm saying. So it's important for us to hold on to our land and what is ours.
And that's what I wanna move into this next piece with that. That was why I asked you that question, because I wanted to get to this piece too.
Yeah.
So would you say in your exploring, you know, or having this experience, you're an expert of your experience, having this experience with your mom's family, and knowing all of this, like, it is the spirit of resistance of those people, of your people, is, I you know, people say resilient, but there is really no word, right?
It's in the fabric of their blood.
Yeah.
It is.
And so would you say that that's where your activism started? Like, that's where you woke up to activism, to have a full blown, like have an understanding, wait, we're different. There's something else going on here.
I would say absolutely. I would say absolutely yes.
What age?
You know, man, I was young, maybe like 13, 14. I was super young. And also my mom worked, she was a social worker. Give it
up for the social workers.
Give it up for the social workers, period. So not only did we have this strong family pride and this very much our weapon, I guess I'll say it like this, and then I'll talk about her being a social worker and how she advocated for children and was very specific about wanting to make sure that children were protected, safe, and set up for success. That's how she always described it. I want these kids to be set up for success. But she was keen on education. My family, and it was almost to the point where it's kind of like the old school way of thinking. You go to school, you get a good job, you get married, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's very like, that's how you do it. But a lot of that came from, and just in looking at my family now, I think that Black liberation, I think that liberation for marginalized communities are based in economic freedom. And that's why it's important to correct that the harm, the wage harm that has happened over so many years of systematic oppression. And I see that now, like as an adult, like even if it wasn't fully explained, but in all of my aunts and uncles, even in my grandmother, you know, and even how they talked about, like, for a time, like they didn't even need to go to the grocery store. Like, I'm like, that's full anarchy.
Straight up.
That's full anarchy. Like, how do you beat a system? You're growing your own food on your own land, like, you know, and you have a farm with animals. So if you are having meat that week or whatever, you know, it was a very different way of viewing existing. And it was one that, how can I say this? It was one that was truly based in not only self-survival, but self-thriving from your own community, within your own space, you know. And I do believe, like, at the root of any movement, for that to work, you know, Nina Simone said it best: you don't have to live next to me, just give me my equality.
That's it.
And that's
That's
it.
it.
You know,
I know. You were gonna talk about real quickly. You were gonna talk about your mom and the work of a social worker. And when I think of you, though, I think of you as a social worker, right? How you're able to help us navigate our emotions, our feelings, figure out what's going on with us through the music that you play. Even when you were an MC, through your lyrics, you know, how you provoke, you know, those questions. You ask those questions. There's a part of you that pulls at people. And so, you know, some of the questions that are coming up from the audience are like, if you had advice, if you had lessons that you would have known earlier in your journey, in your career. People want to know if you could talk to your teenage self, you know, what are learning lessons you would share to help encourage, inspire, right? But I want to say that my experience of you has been that of, to hear that your mom was a social worker. You never stopped being a social worker, right? As a social worker, I see that in you. I see that. I see everything that you're talking about. I'm like, oh my goodness. You know, we've been doing this for over 10 years, and it's like, I'm so excited to hear this other part of you, like your genealogy and those pieces. So thinking about the traditional ways that they have been, that they've taught you, right? Some of those traditional ways, I don't know if the way that we actually are living in these times actually go with some of those traditions. So as a Black queer woman, right? How do you, how have you been able to navigate that? And what would you tell yourself as a youngster? It's heavy, but you know what I'm trying to say.
It's heavy. It's heavy. No, and I received all that. Thank you for that. I never, I don't think I ever thought about that. Like, no matter what I was doing in life, I was always going back to work with kids or to use hip hop in education and figure out ways to start conversations together. But it has to go back to that. You know, it never, like what they said, the apple doesn't fall far, right? But those are a couple of great questions. Okay, so and if I could talk to my teenage self, what would I say? Oh man, I was so awkward. What in the world? What a world, teenage Faye, teenage Likwuid. I would have told myself, for one, it's going to be okay. For two, keep pushing. For three, do what you want to do. Do what you want to do. I think, like, I still get in my head now as an adult, but you know, as a teenager, and I was in so many different things, right? I was on the basketball team. I was on band. I was Miss Columbia High for my school. I did not want to do pageants, but my mom made me, which I'm glad that she did, actually. So I did all of these things and had all these goals. And I think within that, I had one main goal. I didn't want my mom to have to pay for school. I was like, I'm going to get a scholarship, you know. But within that, I don't think I knew what I wanted to do because I was trying to follow certain boxes, you know. We're all like, when you're young, you want to make your parents proud. It's like, okay, this is what I need to do. I probably would have traveled sooner. I probably would have, I'm actually glad I went to grad school, but I might have gone later. I think that's the other thing. Like, when you're young, you're so worried about getting old. Oh my gosh. Like, when you're 16, 17, 25 sounds so old. And then you turn 25, you're like, what? Like, this isn't even starting. And then you turn 30, you're like, oh my gosh, I gotta really like grow up now. You know, but when you're a kid, it's like everything's coming at you so fast. So I would have told myself to trust the process, have fun, stop taking everything so serious, you know? It's okay if you made a B. You know, it's okay. Like, it's something that I had to grow out of because I was in my head so much. And I do love now, and I'm in love with Gen Z. I don't know how many Gen Z folks are out there. I can't see the chat, but I'm in love with Gen Z and what they do. And
They're
you don't
amazing.
have to. They're amazing. They're absolute everything. Seriously. Like it's and it's so interesting because I don't know if baby boomers and Gen X, if that's like maybe their pair, and then millennials and Gen Z, we're a whole other pair that just like, we just get each other, I think that's it. But yeah, I would want to tell young folks, like, the traditional way is not the only way, and it's not always the right way. You have to figure out what works for you. And schooling and education are two different things. They can go together. They're two different things. Everything that I learned in the music business happened in the music business. I didn't learn that at St. John's. I didn't learn that at College of Charleston. I didn't learn that at Columbia High. I had to be out there, and that's just the honest truth. And the other thing is, technology is changing so fast by the minute. By the time you get a 4-year degree, you're 4 years behind. Isn't that insane? It's which is crazy. So, yeah, trust the process, have fun, and it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay.
So how did you navigate? It's going to be okay. How did you navigate some of those obstacles? Like, what kind of stuff did you do? What kind of stuff did you tell yourself? How did you do that?
Oh my gosh. Which part? Which part, girl? Intersectionality. Can I be black?
The coming out
also
from, like,
can you make me a woman?
All
And
of
then
it,
make
right?
me gay. Make me all of these things. And make me from the South, not from a major city, like a really small town. Let me get all of that before I go to Earth. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Yeah. Queer Black woman from the South. Yay. The way, what? It's honestly, it was honestly trial and error, right? I think Black women have a struggle with having hyper visibility and then hyper invisibility. It's a situation where, and it was interesting because I was talking to one of my buddies, Uzo. We're having a conversation about, we're talking about the wealth gap, and I know equal pay day was just a big topic that was circulating on social media. But in just all honesty, sometimes we're so happy to just have a seat at the table. We don't know what to ask for when we get there.
Talk about it.
So true.
I'm just happy y'all invited me to this table. You gonna offer? Okay, yeah, I'll take that. Sure. And that's, whereas everyone else comes to the table entitled AF. Let me get this, that, and this. Oh, and can you throw a car in there? And I don't want to pay rent, so find me a flat somewhere, not too far uptown, not too far downtown. I guess Midtown's okay. Like, and we're like, oh, I could have done that too. Like, I could have asked for that also, And I think, like, in being, in being who I am, and not understanding that, especially being queer, in the South in the early 2000s, which you think is a long time away, but it's not. It was definitely a challenge for me. So I don't even feel like I got to grow into my full self until I got to New York, because a lot of some of the stuff that I was struggling with and so worried about, and I just have to say, I had really good friends. My sister is amazing. Like, I really had great support systems, but to be that and to be open about it, and just to be out and proud, and not really having who did that before, and was able to, like, still continue to create and thrive from that. So it really took a lot of thank you. It took a lot of prayer. It took a lot of finding my purpose. It took a lot of working smarter and working harder. It took a lot of finding my tribe and finding people. You know, they say like, if within your circle of friends, they should be both pushing you forward and praising you. If not, you're not in a circle of friends, you're in a cage. You know what I mean? Like it's like finding your tribe and being able to be in that beautiful space and lifting as you climb. So that way, when I'm at the table, somebody else like me can be at the table too. Because girl, we can be in this together. You know, together. It don't have to be lonely at the top. Bring your friends.
Bring your friends.
And the real ones. On period.
That's why we love Mama's Hip Hop Kitchen so much, because it gives us an opportunity to, you know, check in with folk and what you got. Well, bring it. You know, the platform is here. That's what it's all about. I want to ask you another question real quick. You know, when you've been with Mama's Hip Hop Kitchen, you have brought in your own little group of female DJs to, you know, to showcase. And can you just share like one of your favorite parts of working with youth? Like, and like what one of your favorite parts? What do you get out of that?
It's multiple layers. I love seeing, like, you know, each young person achieve something that they either say, oh, I can't do that. Because, you know, when you're like, I don't know how to do that. I can't do that. And it's just like, whatever, because you're like a teenager and everything sucks. But I love seeing them accomplish everything. Is so dramatic. I love seeing them accomplish things that they said they couldn't do or didn't know how to do, and watching them not only do it, but knock it out of the park. And I love seeing young folks, like even years later, take something that we did and turn it into something bigger and better, right? And that's what they say, to teach is to learn twice. That's the quote. So it's like you start to learn from them. You know, like how awesome is that? And yet, like the girl, it's funny because I just posted a thing from the girls club, and shout out to Kelly over there as well. And the girls are amazing. They're super talented. Like they could really just be doing a full tour and going to teach their own classes. That would be another thing to like see when you let them work in groups and they go off and say, oh, this is how you do this. And they just start to let me show you how to do this instead. You know, remember how
in their language.
In their language. Yeah.
Exactly.
So, but yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. And it makes all of this make sense.
All of it. I get it. I totally get it. I have full joy. I mean, it's such a rewarding experience to do the event every year. We do the event once a year, and once a year is enough because it is full of energy. It lasts a whole year, really.
Yeah.
Our time is moving. So we're almost at the end of the hour. Can you believe it?
This went so fast.
Which means that we're gonna have to do this again, like, and just be in a whole other keep the conversation moving. But we wanted to give people just a little idea of, you know, what does it take? What are the things? How have you had to move? How do you identify, and how are you moving through this world in what you identify as? And so you've answered all of those questions, and the most exciting thing for me is to just know that you're okay. And so my final question is, during this pandemic, this dual pandemic, racism and COVID, as an independent artist, how have you been able to sustain yourself?
Yeah. So in January of this year, I lost my job. And I shouldn't say lost my job, but you know, that's the best way to put it. What I was doing full time, what was my dream work, the company had run out of money, you know, and they were like, you can stay if you want to contract. And I was like, I don't know if that works in my plan, in my path. Super bummed, super disappointed, felt defeated. Rewind to before then, you know, and everybody had this. That's why it's always weird to talk about that. For 2020, had all these things lined up, all these events that I was going to do, things that places I was going to perform, and DJing, and kind of recentering LMA Flossie and how I was going to represent that again. And LMA Flossie, that's my Afrofuturism piece in the planetarium that we did 2019. We're going to do something else cool 2020. All that stopped. You know, I was feeling like I was in a very dark place, emotionally drained. And it was one of the few times where I felt like my art wouldn't be the channel, if you will. It wouldn't be the channel that I needed to express how I was feeling. And I love how you described that. It was a dual pandemic, because racism is a pandemic. You know, trained civil servants taking the lives of innocent civilians that they're sworn to protect is clearly a disease. Having hatred against someone to the point where you run up in a shop and shoot it up because they are of a different ethnicity than you is clearly a disease, you know, and all doing that while we're literally struggling to find pure oxygen. So I took a moment and I just had to recenter and reset as an artist, recenter and reset. And I started to regather intention. That was a big part for me, regathering intention, you know. And I said this before, I was fake busy. I was fake busy before. I wasn't doing nothing. Doing what? Like doing a show here and there, putting out projects, okay, playing some clubs, but fake busy for what? You know? And I was like, I really want to make sure that anything that I do moving forward from this point has that intention. And to be an independent artist, to live in a space where, I started out of freelancing. That's where my career began. So for the 15 years I've been in New York, I've probably only had a job 5 of those years, if that long. You know, the rest have been just me working for myself, thank God. So I just had to really recenter and reset. I prayed, I meditated, I did some intentional meditation, cleared out some stuff. I talked to my Reiki master, I did all the things. I burned sage, my Palo Santos, got my holy water, all of the things. And now I have not 1, but 2 clients. I'm recentering, resetting. I got a grant, my first grant ever. Finally doing a part, my dear friend Dwight Allen O'Neill, we're gonna put together an event that's not just a party. I was like, I don't want to just be DJing in clubs again. Nothing against that. Shout out to my DJs. I love club DJing, but I want to do an intentional healing music process. I'm working it out. I'll invite you all when it happens, but virtual and in real life. And you know, it was really a situation of using what we have, and just for any music business people watching, multiple streams of income is key, right? Make your money work for you, don't work for your money. So whenever you get those royalties, make sure you sign it, do the paperwork, sign up for the PROs. Those royalty checks are small, but they help when they can. Put some money in Bitcoin. Have people pay you in Cash App so you can go right in and buy some Bitcoin and watch your money grow. And sell it when it gets high, buy more when it gets low. Treat it like the stock market, you know? Do all of the things. All of the things.
Liquid, there's so many things. There's so many levels and layers to you. This like Afrofuturism thing, we gotta talk about it more. We have a lot more to pull out of you. You're brilliant. You're brilliant.
I love you, sis.
And you're brilliant. And this is not enough time, but I'm so happy people got to just tap in and just get a little bit of that vibranium, baby.
Yes.
You know? Yes. And so we're gonna have to wrap up, but this is not the end.
It's not the end for you, obviously, and it's not the end of In Her Shoes series. We have our next event on Thursday, April 15th with MC Tony Blackman and poet La Bruja. The theme is the evolution of the MC. So we're super excited about that. For those of you who were not able to listen the entire time, this is recorded, so you can watch it again, start from the top. So thank you guys. Liquid, thanks for joining us. We love you.
I love y'all. Thanks for having me. And I'm so glad y'all are doing this series. I can't wait to see the rest.
You're the bomb. You're the best. I believe you and I believe in you. Keep pushing.
Thank you, sis. I love you so much. I love y'all.
Thank you for everything you've done for us. We love you so much. Forever.
Thank you to the
Follow
audience.
us on the Hostos Center on Facebook, Mama's Hip Hop Kitchen. Follow Liquid at Liquid. Is there a LMAFlossy?
Oh yeah, there. Yeah, LMAFlossy.com.
Also, there's the online program, so we'll drop the link on YouTube Live, Facebook Live, and whatnot, so you guys can see the program, like the PDF program. There's links for everyone's social media, websites, whatnot. Thank you to the Hostos crew for producing this for us tonight. Have a great evening and see you guys next time.
And shout out to Luz with her 10-year-old son that's watching and all of our friends. We love you. Thank you. We're blessed. We're blessed.
Bye, guys.
Thank you
so much.
Bendición.
Bye.
Oh, Liquid.
Yay. Oh, this is so cool.